Hi friends, welcome to Greenwood Grown. I'm Megan. I'm a gardener in Oregon in the Willamette Valley. So today I want to talk about mulching. I garden using organic practices, and if you want to garden without using herbicides in your garden, then mulching is something you're going to have to learn about. I don't know of any other way except for unless you really love weeding it. I honestly don't mind weeding, but I don't have enough time to weed an entire garden. There are other benefits to mulch as well, but let's go ahead and take a look at this bed behind me. Okay, so this bed has my sweet peppers in it in this sort of blank spot. It has sunflowers that are just coming up, and right here we have some Japanese eggplant. So this bed did have garlic in it. The garlic was planted last October and harvested in late June. And then I followed the garlic with the sweet peppers. That worked really well for me last year. The peppers actually look really good. But it's probably hard to see on camera because there's a lot of grass coming up in between them. So the garlic was mulched with straw. And so we didn't have a lot of weed pressure for the garlic. That worked great. But when I put these in, I was getting ready to leave town. I didn't have any straw. And I didn't have any of the other things that I am using this year for mulching. And so I left them unmulched, and it is definitely time to remedy that problem. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, and then I'll be back to show you what my next steps are. There, that's looking a lot better. I've taken the cages out temporarily. They're sitting, it's kind of probably hard to see them on the camera, but they're sitting right there. And I've gotten the weeds out. What looks like straw in the bed is straw. That is what it is. It's left over from mulching the garlic, and it's just incorporated into the soil there. I'm not trying to remove that. But you can see that the peppers are now what's left there. There's still, I see a few blades of grass. I can pull those out as I go, or the mulch will probably just kill them off. Okay, now here behind me, I've gone and got the straw that I'm going to mulch with. Earlier this year, straw in my area was up to $15 a bale if you were buying it at a feed store. I was seeing it online, particularly if you bought it in bulk, for $10 a bale. It just really was somewhat kind of cost prohibitive for me. I don't use a ton of straw, so I can't buy like big round bales, but I go through about 10 or 15 bales in a summer between my chickens and my garden. So this year I had tried a few different things, including not mulching. So let me show you the pine shavings that we used in a couple of beds. So this is the pine shavings that are in the summer squash bed. Not all of our summer squash germinated, and I don't know if that has to do with the pine shavings or not. I don't think it does, because on this side of the bed, I have 2 plants, and on the other side of the sunflowers, they all germinated. I actually think it has more to do with some birds. So I think the birds were picking off my my sprouts. But that's okay. We're going to have plenty of summer squash like we always do, like everything else this year. It's a little late. I harvested my first summer squash off of the plant over here in this bed just today. So we did use pine shavings. I used it over in my other in-ground beds for my brassicas, and I really like it for the brassicas. They didn't seem to mind it at all. I was a little bit worried about it. But my bigger complaint about it is how effective it is. Now, it is effective. I did just weed out this area, but I left this part so you can still see that there is still grass coming up through this. Now, is it as bad as the bed that was not mulched? No, not at all. There's also some bindweed. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but right in there that's coming up through the pine shavings. So we went with the pine shavings because it's about $5 or $6 for a bale. And that would be about the same as a bale of hay. So that was more cost effective. We'll see how I like it once it breaks down. It definitely is different, but I don't dislike it. I just prefer the straw. So why did how did I end up with straw? And two, why did I choose to go that route instead of continuing with the pine shavings? So here on my property, the three main weeds I deal with are bindweed, just regular grass, and thistle. So the straw seems to be more like really effective against all three of those, whereas the pine shavings is really effective against the thistle. I'm not really having thistle problems. So in my brassica beds, in my other in-ground beds where I've used them, thistle is the main problem in those beds, and it's really doing good. It's really doing well there. On these beds that are next to my lawn, grass is my main problem, and bindweed. Bindweed is just a problem everywhere, but nothing is 100% effective against bindweed, so we do the best we can. I saw an ad on my local classifieds, my Facebook classifieds, for clover straw. Crimson clover is a common crop here. I'm not really sure if they grow it for seed or if they grow it for animal feed, but it's a common rotational crop here. It's really pretty in the spring when it comes into bloom and you have fields, these like huge fields of crimson clover. It's really beautiful. But I didn't know that people made straw out of it after they harvested the seed tops. But she had posted this and I thought, let's go take a look at it. So I went and talked to her. It has not been sprayed, which I was concerned about. It was allowed to dry naturally, which makes sense. It bloomed 2 or more months ago. And I really like the look of the straw. Now I have kind of an unusual situation. I don't like to buy straw from a source that can't tell me what it is, and I can't tell. So if I buy straw from a feed store, it might be wheat straw. In fact, it's not unlikely that it would be wheat straw, which is a problem for me. Now, I could see the wheat heads if it had some in it, but good straw doesn't have any of the seed heads still in it. So, but let me show you this straw. I don't know if you were using it for animal purposes, if this is good or not, but for my purposes, it's really good. Look how short that is. So instead of getting like the long pieces like I would with oat straw or other long grass straws, I am getting these short pieces, and that is really good for me. It's easy to get around the plants. I'm also hopeful that, so clover is a nitrogen fixer, and this doesn't have any of the nodules that are in the roots, obviously, because this doesn't have any roots, but I like the idea of using a nitrogen fixer straw instead of a grass straw. I also didn't finish my sentence before, or my concern before. I can't use wheat straw because I have celiac disease and I have reacted to it before, which seems crazy, but it is what it is. So I have the additional barrier that I need to buy my straw from a farmer. I can't really buy it from someone that isn't going to be able to tell me about what it is. So let's go ahead and mulch these beds, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, and there is the bed mulched. with the cages returned. In case you're wondering about the cages, this serves two purposes. One, peppers can get heavy and fall over when they get big and have fruit on them, but it also, especially right now, protects the peppers. They're pretty delicate, and it protects the peppers from my dogs, who are not always mindful of the in-ground beds. So we do things like put up these little fences and things, and just that little bit of a barrier keeps the dogs out of the beds. So they serve a twofold purpose. But so there's the straw. It's about 3 or 4 inches. It was really nice to have the short straw to get around all the pepper plants. I was able to get right up to the plants. I did bury my soaker hose. That's what I normally do. And not only do I appreciate the weed control and the moisture control, which is another major aspect. We're now having heat after a lot of water, and my plants are a little stressed out about it. They were accustomed to having a lot of water, and the heat is stressing some of them out. These peppers look pretty good, but to have the moisture retention will be really good for them. And then I wanted to show you, I did heavily mulch at the edge of the bed so that I can run my lawnmower right up against that and not worry about that, and have a barrier, that edge, where I don't need to string trim. So that's another big benefit for me of mulching at the edges of my garden. And if you're wondering how much straw it used, those two are not straw, but that's how much of the bale I have left. It doesn't look, it almost still looks like a full bale, but I did use, there's still this down here. I would say I used about 5 flakes. If you're familiar with straw, you know it comes off in flakes. And I used about 5 flakes. So this bale will do several more in-ground beds. So I have been using just regular mulching as well as sheet mulching for 10 years in this area. I couldn't garden without it. It just makes my ability to focus on growing vegetables possible. It stretches my limited resource of my time and my energy. I did want to talk about the difference between mulching and sheet mulching. This is not sheet mulched. This is just mulched. I wanted to talk about the difference. Sometimes you hear me talk about sheet mulching. Let's go ahead and walk over to a place where I've used sheet mulching, and I'll show you an area of our property that we are in process of sheet mulching. This area you can see the wood chips on it, has been sheet mulched. What does that mean? It means that we hoard cardboard. So you can see our pile of cardboard here, and under these bark chips are layers of cardboard. Now this area was a blackberry bramble. If you watched my last video, I'll just pan over here and you can see blackberries are a major problem in the Pacific Northwest. If you live here, you know. This is a blackberry patch that has already been cut down once this year. Let me zoom back to show you that. So as we get blackberry patches, and this also has cottonwood trees in it, this is like just a problematic part of our property that we're working to get under control, and have been for 7 years, because this was just a 20-foot tall briar when we moved here. This entire fence line we couldn't see this fence, and we couldn't even get close to it. We didn't know there was a gate. On both sides of the fence was a blackberry bramble with cottonwood and hawthorn trees mixed in, up about 15 to 20 feet. It was just really a mess. So over the course of several years, we have sheet mulched this heavily, repeatedly. It is how we also prepare beds in the fall, new in-ground beds, if we're making new in-ground beds. Sometimes you hear this referred to by other terms like lasagna gardening. It just is basically using cardboard or paper to smother the plant material, and then adding other types of organic materials like wood chips or grass clippings or straw or really whatever you can find to keep the cardboard in place and to help keep the moisture in place. And the cardboard breaks down really quickly and the bark chips break down a little bit more slowly, but we have found that the cardboard is critically important. We actually don't even unfold our boxes anymore. We do them 2 layers deep or to maximize the time that we get out of the cardboard. This area right here has been sheet mulched 3 times because the blackberries are so, they just grow so readily and so easily and in between any little crevice. They do come up through here. I did just weed this, but the sheet mulching makes controlling areas like this possible. This is where our fruit trees are. This also was kind of a weird area when we moved here. It has black plastic down on it. We did not put it there. It's been there for 7 years, so it's really needs to come out. And this is our next project, is we're getting ready to sheet mulch all around these 3 fruit trees to help with their lives. And we're going to put some guilds in there, so that'll be a future project. But the way that we start it is we are going to sheet mulch, which if you can see near these trees, I can't get close in on them to either, certainly not with my mower, but even with my string trimmer, because they are dwarf variety trees, they are so low to the ground and it's just really hard to control the grasses underneath them. So that is, we have sheet mulched them once, and that is, once was not often or was not enough. But that is on our project list next, and we will use sheet mulching for that. So one last comment on the mulch, whatever you're using. People ask me, well, what happens to it? And you can reuse your mulch. So when we harvest these peppers, I will just pull the straw back and then put it back in the fall to help put the bed to sleep. If it's broken down more than I expect, like if it's been through an entire year, then I put it in our compost bin and it becomes compost. And as you saw at the beginning, that there's straw incorporated into the soil there, and it does just a lot of times break down and add to the health of the soil. So it's the next day. I didn't hit record on the last segment that I recorded for just to wrap things up. I hope that learning about mulch was interesting, useful. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you next time.